This is a look at the leaf spring relocation on my 67 Dodge Dart. Got everything pretty much done. Just got to put the exhaust and the drive shaft back in, then I'll be done. Just some things I wanted to show because I haven't seen any videos out there about leaf spring relocation. But the first thing, at least on this car, you got to do is mini tub, which you can see up there. Because if you don't move the wheel tubs in, then moving the springs in is only give you another maybe 3/4 of an inch of tire clearance. That's why some people opt to use the offset spring kit. But if you do that, you still have to move the spring perches on the axle shaft, and you only gain, like I said, maybe a 1/2 inch or 3/4 inch of tire clearance on the inside. So this is a full spring relocation. There's a mini tubbing, so the inside edge of the wheel well is now pretty much even with the frame rail, which is the whole point. So once you do that, then you got to move the leaf springs in and out of the way. So I measured from where they were before to where they are now, and it picked up about 3.5 or maybe 3 3/4 inches on each side of tire clearance to the inside. So I'll be able to fit 15 by 10s in there. On the spring boxes, this is a Mopar Performance kit, by the way. Some people, when they install the boxes, want to cut both sides of the frame rail, and some people just cut the inside, and I opted just to cut the inside. So from this side, you can see there's the original. I don't know how well you can see it, but the original frame rail is there. Only the inside part is cut. The inside and the top, that is, in order to slide the box into place. And what I did was, to mark the location of the holes in the boxes, because they don't come with any holes, I installed the original front spring hanger and used a long 5/8 bolt going through there to make a little mark on the box. We're going to use this rod to mark the location of the hole on our new spring box. So we're going to use the existing bracket for the front hanger here with this rod in it. This is a 6-inch long 5/8 size rod, which is the same size as the bolt used for the spring hanger. So you reinstall this spring hanger with the 4 nuts on the other side. You can see on this side how that rod is hitting onto this existing hole. So you can see it. So we need to cut a little bit of a hole here to make room for this rod to come through, and for the bolt to come through eventually when we're done. And then I took it out and drilled it with a 5/8 drill, and then put it back, and before welding it in, put that long bolt back in. It probably actually was a different long bolt. It was long enough to go through both sides. And that's how I knew I was welding it back into place, where the front and back location of the spring was going to be in the same place as stock, because I used the existing bolt to locate it in the existing hanger. In the back, I'll go and show on this one. Basically, you just hang the shackle on the frame rail. So you got to basically enlarge an existing hole that's up there. And what I did is I enlarged it quite a bit larger than it needed to be, and then I welded on a 1-inch washer to each side. And by welding a 1-inch washer to each side, you don't have to be as precise about drilling the hole perfectly, because you can drill from the outside in, but the spare tire well is in the way here, so there's not really room to get a drill in there from this side, and unless you have a really long drill to go in from the other side that's a 1-inch, it's a kind of a big thing to ask. So I just use the die grinder on the inside. On the outside I use one of those Harbor Freight step drill bit and just drilled it oversized, knowing that I was going to weld the washer in place. So the actual size didn't matter because a 1-inch washer was going to cover it over. Last thing to mention is, well, maybe two things. There's the new perches you see there. Oops, there they are. So, some people cut off the old perches. I didn't see a need to. But I guess it would have been easy enough with a cutoff wheel to do that, or maybe a Sawzall. But I left them on there. And I used them to kind of get the angle correct of the new perches that I was welding on. And they're MIG welded with the 175 amp. I had it cranked up all the way to weld the perches on, which is something that you'll see argument about. A lot of people like to use stick welders. Some people say a 140 MIG is enough. I had a 175, so I cranked it up, and I felt good about the welds. And I used 035 solid wire for that. Before welding those in fully, what we did is once we had the leaf springs installed on both sides, we put the rear end in there and just located it in there, dropped it in on the perches, which were not welded yet. They were just sitting on the locating pins of the leaf springs and the blocks here. And I'll explain the blocks in a minute. But we use that, basically just put them in there, and then to get the side-to-side location correct, we measured off the frame rail here so that we were centered in the car when we were done. And when we were done, we also saw that when we measured from the new spring perch to the old spring perch on each side, there's the same amount of distance. So the rear end is pretty well centered in the car from the factory, and when we put the new perches in, it remains centered in the car. So that was the whole point. So once you put it in there, centered it, tack welded the new perches in, and then took it down, turned it upside down, and welded it around solid, so it's not going to go anywhere. When we put it back in to actually finally install it after the welding was done, we wanted to make sure it was square with the front. And if you look on like bigblockdart.com, they have the tech pages how to install the leaf spring relocation kit. They talk about how you measure to make sure you're square with the front. So we measured off the torsion bar mounts on the back. There's 2 torsion bars, obviously, so we just measured from each mount to a plumb bob hanging off the back of the back, or maybe the front of the axle tube, I don't remember. But we got it even on each side. But in order to do that, we had to use these lowering blocks that you see underneath the spring perch. And that's an adjustable lowering block. This is a 1-inch block. I got it from Speedway Motors. And we had to move this one back quite a bit. Not quite a bit. A few eighths of an inch. But it just made me wonder how people who don't have that adjustable lowering block, how they actually get the thing square once the leaves and everything are already installed and welded up. But like I said, I don't know how they do or if they do, but we got this one square by using these lowering blocks. These were like a garage sale buy. I think they were about $14 or $15 each. So that's a good way to square it off if you find that once you welded everything up and you put it in there that it's not square to the front. Just try those adjustable lowering blocks. And if you do add the lowering blocks, you're going to need new U-bolts. So these are new AFCO U-bolts I had to cut off in order to get the torque wrench up there. I think that's everything I wanted to show you.